Mom adopts boy nobody wants, 27 years later learns why. Her gaze was fixed on the beeping monitors that surrounded her in the hospital bed. Her breath was choppy, and the room was dark and hazy. She attempted to swallow her salvia, but her throat was too swollen. Only one thought pierced her consciousness as her surroundings darkened. How could he do this to her? Harley Norton was a kind woman, she always had been. She and her sister Grace joined forces at the age of 28 by running a foster home. Together they provided for numerous children. Even though she provided the children with a place to sleep and a warm dinner, Harley wanted more. She ensured to make every child feel loved and she treated them as her own. A 2-month-old baby named Kevin Carter changed everything for her, however. Harley felt a connection with Kevin the moment she met him. The first time she held him, she knew that he was special. Harley loved Kevin more than anything in the world. She felt so protective of him and he changed her whole life. However, when it was time to put Kevin up for adoption, Harley did something that stunned everyone. Harley was busy feeding Kevin when Grace shared the news. As she processed the information, she felt a pain in her chest. She wanted to give Kevin away. "Why don't I adopt him?" Harley asked with tears in her eyes. She couldn't imagine being without him. What her sister said to her next broke her heart even more. "Kevin's birth mom wishes he ends up in a biracial or African American home," Grace said sternly. "We must start the adoption process soon if we want him to find a good family." However, finding Kevin a family was more difficult than they had expected. Years went by without any families coming forward to adopt Kevin. Harley understood that nobody was coming to get him and that it was up to her to take care of him. However, she would learn to regret her decision as it nearly cost her her life. Kevin finally joined Harley's family. She was over the moon and she gave him all the love in the world. Harley did her best to make sure that Kevin would grow up to be a fine young man. She taught him important values such as kindness and respect for those around him. Everything was going smoothly up until one day. Harley was sleeping peacefully when she felt a horrible pain coming from her stomach. She called out for Kevin to help her and he did not hesitate to come and help her. Harley tried to stay calm for Kevin's sake. But he knew that she needed to get to the hospital and soon. Harley was diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease. Kevin couldn't help but cry. Harley felt awful for her son. Kevin pulled the doctor aside and discussed something with him. They agreed about something and informed his mother that he had a plan and that she had nothing to worry about. When Kevin shared what his plans was, Harley stopped him. She couldn't expect him to do something so extreme for her. Kevin did want to take no for an answer. "This is my calling," he shared with his mother, trying to hold the tears back. "Hopefully, I can do more for you as I get older, but for the moment, it's the least I can do." Harley tried her best to stop Kevin from doing it, but he did not care for her attempts. He had to check if he could donate his kidney to her. As the minutes ticked away in her room, Kevin fidgeted in his seat. When the doctor finally entered, Harley and Kevin were taken aback by his response. "You're a match." The doctor broke the news. Kevin jumped from his seat. He hugged Harley before turning to the stunned doctor. "When can we operate?" Kevin asked. "As soon as possible if that's okay," the doctor answered. But Harley did not celebrate. She beckoned Kevin closer and whispered something into his ear. "All those years you took care of me, Mom," Kevin said, "let me take care of you now. Please." He took Harley's hand and squeezed, taking her back to when he used to squeeze her finger as an infant. Harley's heart broke for the second time that week. She had fought to have Kevin stay with him those 27 years past. Now he was doing the same for her. Could she agree to his plan? A nurse brought an anesthesia face mask over Harley's nose. She smiled and Harley nodded, lifting her head as the nurse fitted the mask on her. "My son, where's my son?" Harley moaned. The nurse answered, pointing to the side, but Harley could not hear anything. The room dimmed and her aching nerves went to sleep. Then came a bright white light. Shadows danced before Harley's sight when she opened her eyes. They blocked the charring light around her. "Mom?" A distant voice echoed. "Mom, is she okay, doctor?" "Kevin?" Harley tried to call back. Her tongue was heavy in her mouth and her head hurt. "Kevin? Was she alive or had the surgery been unsuccessful?" "She is fine," another voice declared on Harley's side. "Give her a bit of time." It was the doctor's voice. Gradually, the white light around Harley faded away. When her sight cleared, the first person she saw was Kevin. He was standing next to her, his fingers tied around her palm. "Hi, Mom," he croaked. Tears covered his eyes, but his face split in a smile.